Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Great to have you in the conversation. You might have read a little bit about the elections in Europe, in the UK and France in particular. And ladies and gentlemen, they're using terms like earthquake, like seismic, like avalanche to describe the changes in the political landscape in both the UK and France, because conservative parties, basically their version of the Tea Party, won resounding victories both in France and in the UK. Nigel Farage is the leader of the UKIP party. That's United Kingdom Independent Party, UKIP for short. And both Marine Le Pen, the National Front in France, and Nigel Farage and the UKIP party, they ran on a platform that opposes unrestricted Islamic immigration. They said, look, unrestricted Islamic immigration, porous borders, open borders, it's corroding our culture. Our culture is being changed. It's being contaminated by a different set of values that are being imported. It's impacting wages. It's impacting the economy. We need to do something to slow that down, get a reasonable control of that, and they won resounding victories. Now, what's important in the UK is the UKIP is the first time, ladies and gentlemen, since 1910 that a party other than the Tories or the Labour Party won a national election. First time in 104 years. That's why they're saying this is earth-shattering. This is earth-shaking. Now, the reason I mentioned, number one, is the immigration issue is a huge issue in France. And don't forget, they're way down the pike from us. They're dealing now with a couple of decades of unrestricted immigration from Islamic countries, and they're realizing, look, this is not good for our culture. It's not good for our cultural cohesion. It's not good for our cultural unity. We've got to slow this thing down. Britain's got another problem. They got 500 Muslim jihadis that are in Syria right now that are fighting, engaged in terrorism in Syria, that have British passports. And maybe 1 in 10, they estimate, 1 in 9 to 1 in 10, when they come back from the battlefield, are going to represent a danger to the United Kingdom. They're getting battle-tested, battle-hardened in Syria, but they've got British passports. We have Americans. Several dozen Americans are fighting in Syria. They have American passports. They are jihadis. They are Muslims getting battle-tested and battle-hardened in Syria, and they're coming back to the United States. And our Department of Homeland Security is saying, we don't know how many of them are here that have come back. We don't know where they are. We have lost track of them. These are terrorists, Muslim terrorists, that are flying on United States passports, went to Syria, learned all the ins and outs of jihadi and all of that, jihadism and all that stuff. Now they're back in the United States, and we don't know where they are. So these political parties that are concerned about this in Europe, of all places, they're down the road from us. They're saying, look, we got to get a control. We got to get a handle on this. Now, UKIP, that's a third party in the UK. They didn't even exist until 1994. So it shows you what can happen if you've got a third party, the potential of a third party. You have to be patient, because what we want, if you think about a third party, people want a third party to be successful instantly and to control national politics right away. In the case of the UKIP, it didn't happen for 20 years. But people were frustrated, disappointed with the Conservative Party, the Tory Party. They weren't conservative, or at least conservative enough. They had strayed from conservative principle. That created a vacuum. The UKIP, United Kingdom Independence Party, fills the gap. And now they won a resounding, earth-shattering election. Now, the Prime Minister in the UK already, Sunday, he came out with proposals to tighten up on immigration. Instantly. Loses the election the next day. He's out there leading the charge on immigration control. So that's another winnable war moment for the day. Just one quick comment on the Santa Barbara shooting. The Democrats are probably hacking flack for some kind of legislation on gun control, background checks. Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, he's got a background check bill that would not have stopped this guy. This guy was background checked. He passed every background check. There was nothing in any of his background check that gave anybody any kind of reason for alarm. So don't let people lie to you. The Democrats' background check bill would not have stopped this Santa Barbara shooter. Now, another lesson out of what he experienced or what he shows or demonstrates is the corrosive nature of violent video games. This guy evidently was socially sort of maladept. He retreated into the world of video games. They were almost without exception, the ones he got involved in were very violent. His only communication was online. His only social interaction was with other people who were playing these violent video games. And in his manifesto that he wrote before he went off and killed 6 people and wounded 13 more, he actually quoted one of the avatars, one of the fictional characters from, I think, the World of Warcraft, one of these violent games that he played, the Mountains of Skulls and Rivers of Blood. That wasn't his own line. It came right out of one of these violent video games. So it's a reminder to us that these violent video games, especially when the individual that's being exposed to them is young and still has a value system and a worldview that's being formulated, can be enormously damaging. And by the way, even if you got some kind of gun control, all these gun control laws, a lot of them have to do with these assault rifles. Got to get these AR-15s, got to get these assault rifles off the street. The 2012 FBI homicide stats, check this out. 3.5 times more people were killed with hammers and fists than with rifles in 2012. I repeat, 3.5 times as many people were killed in 2012 by hammers and fists than they were with rifles. So unless you're prepared to ban tools and start cutting people's hands off so they can't go out and use them to kill people, you're not going to solve the problem of violent death. That's a matter of a heart issue. One last thing before we shift gears here in the last segment. A lot of questions about the shooting, the motivation of the shooter and all that. But I just want to remind you, this guy was from a Hollywood family. His father was one of the assistant directors on Hunger Games, I believe. And so by all accounts, came from a politically left-leaning family in Hollywood. And I just want to remind you that almost every one of these mass shooters, almost every one was a political liberal. I mean, the meme out there is these are Tea Party right-wing nut jobs. These are KKK wannabes. These are white supremacists. These are Christian right-wing nut jobs that go crazy. They often say that about Timothy McVeigh on my Facebook and Twitter feed. Had people talking about Timothy McVeigh. Timothy McVeigh was an atheist when he committed the Oklahoma City bombing. He said that atheism or science is my religion. He was an atheist. Now, he died a Catholic because he converted or reconverted in prison. But he wasn't a Christian. He wasn't a right-wing Tea Partier. He was an atheist who said science is my religion. But you think about some of these mass shootings. Nidal Hasan, Fort Hood, he was a registered Democrat as well as being a Muslim. Aaron Alexis, the guy that shot up the Navy Yard last year, he's a black liberal. He was an Obama voter. Seung Hui Cho from Virginia Tech, he wrote hate mail to President Bush and to his staff. He was a registered Democrat. James Holmes, the guy that shot up the theater in Colorado, he was a registered Democrat. He's a staff worker on the Obama campaign. He was a progressive liberal, and he hated Christians. Amy Bishop, one that shot her colleagues in Alabama, she was an Obama supporter and a rabid leftist. Andrew Stack, the guy that flew the plane into the IRS building. Everybody thought made to order guy's got to be a Tea Partier flying a plane into the IRS building. He was a leftist Democrat. Jared Lochner, the Tucson shooter, shot Gabby. He was a leftist and a Marxist. Didn't listen to conservative talk radio at all. Columbine shooters both came from families who were registered Democrats and progressive leftists. So do not let them lie to you. The vast majority of these mass shooters are political liberals, and most of them even registered Democrats. Let's grab a phone call before we're done for today. Let's go to Kevin in East West Virginia. Kevin, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hi, I was listening to you guys talking about the abortion issue.
Yes, sir.
And I just wanted to make a comment. I myself was adopted into a great, loving Christian family, and I was given a chance. This is back in the 60s, mind you. And my mother was married and my father was not, but yet my mother was able to carry me all the way through into birth, and I was able to be adopted. And I also want to raise this issue also. My sister, who went to college, was date raped, and she was able to carry that child all the way through term until she was able to give birth to a beautiful baby girl. And I just wanted to bring that up to you and let you know that there are some people out there that still have values, that still love God, and, there is a lot of hope. I, for one, am living proof, and I know my sister is also. I just wanted to make that comment.
All right. Well, fantastic, Kevin. Great call to end on. What an encouraging call from Kevin. He has life because it was a troubled pregnancy. His mom chose to carry him to term, give birth to him. And so these stories are repeated all the time. These are kind of quiet heroes who just make the right decision when they easily could compound one bad decision with another bad decision. Instead, they make the decision for life. And Kevin is alive today to talk about it and to appreciate God's gift to him through his birth mom. And I just think about that woman, that's an amazing story to me, that woman in California that is in a coma and yet gave birth to a child through C-section, still in a coma. But she made a decision. She was not going to do anything that would pose some sort of risk to the baby that she carried. And so she chose not to have invasive brain surgery in order to give her baby the best chance for life. And the baby was born. And so now our prayers and hopes are with that family, with that mom, that she will be restored to full and complete health. Well, that's it for today. Let's end our broadcast today with a little blessing from Paul's second epistle to the Thessalonians. To this end, we always pray for you, that our God may make you worthy of his calling and may fulfill every resolve for good and every work of faith by his power, so that the name of our Lord Jesus may be glorified in you and you in him. Bow low before God, stand tall before man, stand in the gap. Never forget, we're fighting a winnable war. See you tomorrow.